Foxes, badgers, mice and voles, weasels, stoats and even hedgehogs felt within their understanding something was afoot. Creatures of the woodland know they always know the way things feel. Their senses are not stunted by the wash of our technology of phones and screens and bleeps and buzzes, houses full of microwaves and signals bouncing each way, backward, forward, to and fro. No, wild woodland animals are still within their natural state. They can speak without talking, though some like to talk. They can feel when things change, and oh, change they did that autumnal day, when the old family of badgers were evicted from their ancestral home, occupied by their kin, since the last great bear was slain by the hunters way back when. Something was wrong. There was no need to ask, as the smell of magic was strong in the air. And magic smells like magic smells. But this was not magic of the woods. This was not fairy magic or elfin magic. No, this magic brooded and bubbled and simmered. And the form in which it came was quite hard to fathom, for they knew the old lady that brought in her boxes and dressers and bedsteads and cupboards and chairs and a big copper cauldron and a number of other things. Yes, they knew her from old, and they thought her their friend. But if she was, how could she turn out the badgers? With no ifs or buts, and not a thank you or please. It was very peculiar, so said the trees, who felt right down to the sap in their roots that today was the start of a very strange story, which they hoped upon hope would not end in disaster, but worse was to come. Of that they were certain. As the red and yellow flashes started lighting the cave mouth, and a strange sort of muttering was called out from inside, and the bats that lived there became silent and grumpy, and never stopped in the night, and refused to answer questions, and a barrier grew that surrounded the cave mouth, and even old Mole could no longer burrow under. To be very honest, she was not a good neighbor, and it was clear that something had gone very badly wrong. And inside the cave, a wickedness grew. By each evil hour, the flashes and bangs and the splutters and pops and the smells multiplied to force all the creatures to run and take cover, as a red toxic fog choked the trees and the flowers, as the wizened old hand of the sorcerer held up the wand and conjured the magic that grew in the making from the smoky green sea in the old copper cauldron, and the bats in the ceiling flew errand after errand, searching and collecting peculiar ingredients. And then began the shouting and the cursing and the shrieking, and the woods were engulfed in a deep seething anger. But after a while things became calmer, and occasionally the creatures heard whimsical laughter, But the laughter got louder, and the spells became stronger and stranger and bigger and wider and longer, and the flashes grew greater and the booming got louder, and the laughter began to sound really quite scary. Until one day inside the cave there was a deep brooding silence, and the woods held its breath, and even the beetles scurried away to take some sort of refuge at a distance, because they felt in their shells that something bad was coming. And there in the cave, lying deep in the cauldron, up from the green fire, something started forming in a deep purple liquid, first a plopping, and then a hissing, and then a wheezing, and a moaning, and a whistling, and a groaning, as the liquid began parting, and a thing began rising, and the thick purple slime slowly slid off this object, which began first to glow, and then slowly pulsated, and a large crystal ball sat right there on the surface. With a sound like a kiss, and then a grim sort of slapping, it pulled its underside up from the thick purple liquid and began to float freely to the old lady's laughter. "It's you!" she exclaimed. "Oh, how long I've been waiting and watching to look on your beauty, all of the failure, all of the pain, all of the trying to conjure your form from my old copper cauldron, and to witness the alchemy of your creation." The trees and the creatures heaved a sigh of foreboding, and the clouds and the sky rumbled out a deep warning, and the ball began spinning, making strange sort of noises, and the cave filled with steam that gave out a sweet odor, but the sweetness grew stronger till it became hard and noxious, and the sorcerer swayed like a wind were upon her, and then dropping to one knee, she put her hand down to steady, with the ball spinning faster and the hissing growing louder, and the sound became wicked as it turned into language, a strange sort of language never heard in the forest. 2 words that repeated like the tide of an ocean, 2 words that made the sorcerer scream out in triumph, 2 words that demanded immediate action, for the power of the ball was now without question.